You're still watching Successful Men Talk here on your Golden Channel 265. We still are continuing the conversation with Marcus on autophagy and fasting. Marcus, before we went to the break, you were talking about the fact that we need to understand our bodies and where we are before we even go into fasting.
Yes.
I'd love to ask, when I come to you as a coach,
Yes.
what's the starting point
Right.
of a consultation with you?
Yes, so I have a process that we've refined. The first step is to understand what's going on in your body, and we do that either through a survey or through a questionnaire, and we also do that through a body scan. So we run a body scan on your body so that I'm able to understand the current status of your health. And I'm not looking for markers that conventional medicine would be looking to uncover. I'm looking to understand what energy is present in every single cell in your body. So if I was to explain to you that every cell in your body has an energy signature, and every single cell in your body has an energy that it emits. How do we know this? So if I put a blanket over myself, I get warm. And the body is expelling about 426 hertz of energy per day. And that comes from inside your cells. So I'm really more interested to understand what's happening in your body at a cellular level and an energy transfer level, rather than trying to understand whether or not my markers for my iron are low. I need to understand why is my iron marker low. So you start out with me through a scan process. I scan your body of over about 600 areas in the body itself. And then once I have that scan, I'm able to sit and consult with you. It takes the consultation and scan process takes about an hour. And then I'm able to actually pinpoint what are the low-hanging fruit, I like to call that, low-hanging opportunities for us to change your health and make a difference naturally and for your body to heal. And here's a good example. Often people think that the answer to improving their blood pressure is to reduce the fat in their diet. And that's unfortunately incorrect. In order to help your blood pressure, one needs to aid and support your kidneys. Because in your kidneys, there are millions and millions of little filters. And it's the job of the kidneys to filter out impurities from your blood. And so you can imagine that if your blood was inflamed, call it inflammation of the blood itself, that would then put pressure onto your kidneys, which would then increase your blood pressure. And so looking to try and solve that by using a high blood pressure medication isn't really going to get to the root of reversing your high blood pressure. If you then focused on why am I inflamed in the blood, what have I done to my body to produce that inflammation in my system, and when you understand that, you can understand how to reverse these chronic illnesses.
Do I come to you when I am not feeling well, or it's best to consult with you even if I'm fine, so that I start on a journey that makes me live healthier?
Themby, I think the answer is yes to both of those, but I do understand what it is that you're asking. I think that there is a very big space for trauma medicine and for medical intervention for people who are very ill. This is more of a preventative approach to health and well-being. And I would always say that it's about future-proofing your body. And so, yes, I do deal with a lot of people that have chronic illness, and we manage diabetics, we manage hypertensives, we people who are hypertensive, we manage people with MS and with autoimmune diseases and ailments. So things like Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid condition, that we would manage naturally and reduce those markers for Hashimoto's. And repair the autoimmune system, because what people don't realize is with all of the preservatives, with all of the poor water sources, with the stresses in our lives, our autoimmune systems are under incredible pressure. We've just come out of a pandemic where COVID has really highlighted people's health, and I think people are really receptive to taking future care of their bodies rather than taking a solution approach. Yes.
Talking of our health and just how COVID has affected us, right? I always say these days a conversation is not complete if we don't touch on the mental aspect of how our lifestyles affect us. How can I use your kind of therapy to make sure I have mental balance as well?
It's a very good question. There are direct benefits that fasting and autophagy have on the brain. So it's one of the few therapies that actually regenerate brain cells, regenerate stem cells in the brain. And so it has the ability to reverse a lot of mental suffering, what I call brain fog. And if you think about your two receptors, a receptor is passing a message from one to the other. And that message is sometimes disturbed by plaques that might build up in your brain. So think of them as tangles inside your brain that are just not able to communicate messages from one to the next. And fasting and autophagy certainly reverses that. And that is reversed by the fact that we are cleansing out the system. So, we mentioned the self-eating of the junk in your system. The brain is one of those organs that really benefits from autophagy. It's very difficult to go and market to somebody that I'm going to improve your well-being.
Exactly.
And there are now studies that are confirming that your well-being is increased by up to 30% using autophagy and fasting regularly.
That's quite a very high number altogether. And coming to us here in South Africa, right? Or before I go there, when I come to you, basically, are you saying that you treat me by adding just the minerals to the water that I have?
Themby, I've got an approach that says food is your medicine. And so we'll start with food. And through our scan process, I might detect that there are certain deficiencies inside your body. So first what we'll do is try to address those through good food sources. We should be getting them from our food sources. We should really pay attention to the quality of the food that we're eating, the way in which the food was created, what water sources were used to produce that food, and whether or not the farmer is letting that land lie fallow, because really we're stripping the nutrients out of the soils on an annual basis, and that means that our food sources are compromised.
Are you saying we should be farming our food on our own now?
Yes. If you have the space, you should be growing your own food. And the reason you should be growing your own food is because you planted it. You know what water you gave it. You know when it was picked, and you know that it was done organically. They are unfortunately in the race to produce food in mass. We are taking shortcuts by adding preservatives to food, by using chemicals to produce food. We all know the stories about GMO foods. Maybe if you don't mind, I'll just take us down a little journey for a bit. In 1969, the Nobel Prize for Agricultural Development was won by Dr. Earl Butz. And Dr. Earl Butz won that for creating something called hybridized wheat. And so the wheat plant used to be a very tall grass many years ago. And in the last 100 years, it's now become a very short, stocky plant. And I don't think that it was done intentionally to hurt anyone. It was done really as a response to the United States coming out of a war where they wanted to appear plentiful, where they wanted to appear strong, where they wanted exports to happen so that Nixon was re-elected. So be careful my rabbit hole, but that certainly has contributed to what we call hybridized wheat, which is a GMO'd seed. In the GMO'd seed, unfortunately, there's something called amylopectin A. And amylopectin A cannot be broken down by the liver efficiency. And that is why we are all getting liver issues.
Are you saying that, because most of the food that we eat is GMO, right?
That's
Are
right.
you saying that basically all the foods that we are eating, or almost all the food that we're eating, is not in a healthy state?
I am, unfortunately. I think the majority of our food is compromised. Look, there are very responsible farmers out there. There are very responsible businesses that are still creating good food sources. And I think more. Let's rather say we should be more aware of where the food source, where that food has come from, and support the companies that are doing this naturally. Support those companies that are trying to re-establish our farms.
Okay. You are giving us quite a lot of information. How do I know if something is organic? Because most of the times, no one ever comes to us and give us that education to say if you're picking foods from a certain supermarket,
right,
this is organic or this is GMO.
Yeah, Themby, I'm also not able to give you a shortcut or a hack around that. So I'm always looking for the organic label. I'm always I interrogate labels, and I've become an expert around how to understand a food label, because the information is there, and it's legally required for the food company to display that information.
I think most of the time people don't know what they're supposed to be looking at. Because no one ever tells you that, in as much as the product is labeled, what does organic mean? What does GMO mean? Because that information has not been given to the people at the end of the day.
Can you take that again? Sorry, can you take that again?
I think what the general public doesn't know is what to look for on labels, because no one ever sits people down and say, if you find something organically labeled, it means A, B, C, D.
Yes.
If you find something GMO labeled, it means A, B, C, D.
Yes, marketing companies and food companies have certainly pushed the envelope, as I would say, around what is acceptable from a marketing perspective. Here's a good example: blended olive oil. So I think the answer, or the hint, is in the word blended. Okay, and when something is fortified or something is enhanced, one needs to be paying attention and be very careful. The other thing that I think people need to be aware of is on labels, is to understand that one might look for, here's a good example, carbohydrate content or sugar content in a product. If a product has a high sugar content or a high carbohydrate content, but also has good dietary fiber, then we have what we call net carbs.
Right.
So gross carbs might be 30, and if I have dietary fiber in that product of 20, my net carbs would be 10. And that's then not such a bad product. And you will find that only products that are natural, so products that we grow from the ground, those are products that have dietary fiber. Unfortunately, I always say to my clients, stay out of the middle of a shopping retail experience, particularly food experience, because all the good food is really on the outside. Okay? And on the inside is a lot of products that are preserved,
Exactly.
a lot of products that will be on the shelf for 3 months. I mean, we've got to be honest and say, if something's on a shelf for 3 months, is there actually any life in that product? You know, and I think that's where people need to be just more aware.
Thank you so much for that lesson. I think next time when you go shopping, you should look out for all the things that Marcus just mentioned. You're watching Successful Men Talk here on the Golden Channel, channel 265. If you want to continue with this conversation and more, you can be in touch with us on s_men_meg, that is on Instagram, or you can contact us on WhatsApp number 071-481-6091. Marcus, just to fast forward a little bit, before we went on air, you just mentioned the fact that men don't really take care of their health because they want to look strong. What are the challenges that you find men face usually?
I think men are reluctant to seek information about their health based on the fact that they do want to appear strong and they do want to appear to be, let's use the word bulletproof. And when the reality is actually quite different, because those men that do seek medical advice or seek to improve their health are really making great strides in their lives, and I think men are reluctant to reach out and to educate themselves, and they're expecting somebody else to fix them. And I think they need to start understanding that they need to take control of their health, because you can only really heal your body when you take control of your health.
From experience, right, what are the major health issues that most men face?
Yes. So I think most men are battling with poor liver function. They are battling with declining testosterone levels. And when the body decreases its production of testosterone, it has a huge impact on men, on their emotional well-being, on their mental well-being. And those can be addressed by eating certain foods, by fasting, to improve the body's ability to generate these hormones, exercise and sunlight and getting out into nature and breathing oxygen. These are all big contributors back to men's testosterone levels. And you didn't hear me say take anything. And these are all your right. You have the right. This is your God-given right to be able to improve your testosterone levels yourself. So those are probably the two areas where men are really battling. And then I would say mental health. Men are really battling to find where do they belong in our new society. I heard a shocking story. I also help with a men's support group. And I heard a shocking story where somebody said that they feel that women's rights have been so promoted that it's to the detriment of men. And I said, please give me an example. And they said to me that they were about to be mugged by somebody who was obviously desperate or a criminal. And instead of them defending their woman, they were going to, because women want equal rights, right?
Yes.
So he was going to shift her for her to take care of this security issue. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked, disappointed.
Coming to that, Marcus, do you feel we are now we are in a situation where men feel women are now more empowered than they are?
I think men are lost to be, I think that's the right word. I think there are also some tough women out there. Let's not be naive. There are certainly women who, men are working for women now, and rightly so. Men are having to report to women in the workplace, and they're feeling emancipated. They're feeling that means that they've lost some sort of manhood, that they now have to report to a lady. And that's just, it's crazy. And what you find is they will then, some women in the workplace are also tough bosses to work for, and do take advantage of weaker, more fragile men. And then what you will find is that men take that home and try and enforce their dominance in their home life, and women are then their wives, their children, their families. They're often the casualties that come out of that experience. And when men just need to take a good hard look at themselves and understand their place. And I think we've lost that generation. We have a fatherless nation, if you don't mind me saying that. A lot of absent fathers. And I think young men or young boys are battling to understand what is the definition of a man.
In your own terms, what is a definition of a man?
You're a provider of security, a provider of shelter, a provider of love, and a provider financially, and a provider of learning and cultivating our children and protecting our women and hearing our women. I find men are consistently the DIY fix-it. A woman brings you a problem and you want a solution. And now you've then given her the support. Whereas actually, many times, women just want you to listen.
What can we do to make men understand their role? Because like you're saying that at the moment men are a little bit lost. What can we do to make sure that the men still find their place and they understand what is expected of them?
I wish I had the silver bullet answer for you, and I think it is a layered answer. I think there's work that men need to do in terms of understanding their contribution to society, and I think we need women to help. I think women for too long have not had their voices heard, and they have lots to offer. You know, a good man is only really supported because there's a good woman in his life, whether it be a good mother, whether it be a good wife, whether it be a good sister. And so I believe that, you know, men need to take responsibility for their new found positions in the world, but I also look for women to help guide us. You know, we need to listen and pay attention, because when we work together, there's certainly going to be far more benefits.
Exactly. Because how can we assist our young men to find their feet? Because I feel we're at a point where they're growing up without guidance, so they don't know their role as men, as young men.
No, I think we certainly are battling with that as a current situation in the world. We have fatherless nations, generations that are being affected, and most of that is because they're absent. So we're talking about not having a role model to actually see what is the correct response. Do we respond with violence? Do we respond with anger? Do we respond with love? And I think that children are sponges, and we need to be there as men, setting those examples. There are many constructive men's groups out there that are willing to assist young men who don't have father role models. There are wonderful organizations out there that are being supported for those fatherless kids.
Marcus, you came today with interesting products, and the lessons that you've given us, really, we don't get this every day, and it's for free, if I would say. How can people get hold of you? Because I'm sure a lot of people love to get access to your products.
Okay. Yeah, you can get hold of me at autophagy.co.za. That's AUTOPHAGY.co.za, or at info@autophagy.
Thank you so much for taking your time to spend time with us. You've been watching Successful Men Tokyo on your golden channel, channel 265. We've been speaking to Marcus from Autophagy and Fasting. I really hope that whatever you're doing, you're going to start fasting. At least do anything that you can to start living better. My name is Themby. I look forward to you joining us again next week, same time. Bye for now.